You know what bugs me?
What bugs you?
Sometimes people say, like, the hot water heater. It's like, no. It's a water heater.
You wouldn't need a heater.
You need a hot water cooler. That's what you need. If you're trying to change... Never mind. I'm just... Oh, man. We've been recording for a whole minute.
Yep.
And we haven't done anything. It's because we're bad at time management.
I'm just going to introduce it and get right into it.
Okay, you do that.
Bye. Okay.
I can't wait to edit this intro.
I switched between hey and welcome mid-word.
Now you know what it's like to be an introvert.
Hello and welcome to the 226. I'm John.
I'm John.
Today we are going to talk about time management.
It's a popular subject amongst college students. And
yes.
The irony of this episode is that we are probably, if you were to take the entire world, or maybe even just college students, and pick two people who are the most qualified to talk about time management, would most certainly not be us. In fact, if you pick the two worst people to talk about this subject, it might be
Jon and John.
One of us. Yeah.
I'm terrible at it.
We're really bad about it with this episode, too.
It's taken forever to get to this episode.
Yeah.
It's been like a week since we last recorded.
Yeah, I know. I think a lot of that was due to, like, just being busy with homecoming, just extra stuff on top, but...
Yeah, I mean, adding to time management, I was up till 3 every night last week.
Same.
Because stuff happens all the time.
Yeah.
It never stops. So maybe we should let them know. So, in being with true lack of time management skills, we purposely didn't prepare anything for this episode. Because we figured, well, I mean...
Yeah.
We should probably just do it.
So if you've listened to all of the episodes that come before this one might be the worst.
It might.
It also might be the best.
Maybe not best, but insightful.
It might be. So it's like a glimpse into the mind of people who don't know how to manage their time, but somehow still manage to eventually get things done.
Yeah.
I guess I'm usually on time with things. People always told me in school, don't procrastinate, right? You get that syllabus day in every class you ever took.
Mm-hmm.
Don't procrastinate, your project's coming up. You know, I procrastinated almost every time.
Oh, by and large, yes.
And I don't know if that's part of my temperament, or if it's just, if it's hereditary, if it's not hereditary. I don't know what causes it, if I'm just an awful person. It could be that, but I procrastinate on almost every assignment.
Oh, me too.
And I think I've either gotten used to it, or it just is easier for me to do things when I'm actually pushed up against a deadline, because then I actually feel the pressure to actually do something.
Yes.
If I'm working ahead, I just don't have the motivation to do something, because it's just, do I have to do this right now? That's what's going through my head, and I just can't find usually the whatever it takes to get the thing done. Like, it could be a paper or a final project or an interview. It's usually like, oh geez, I've got this in about 20 hours. I've got to have this 5-page paper done. Maybe I should start that. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, oh, I've got 2 hours to get this 5-page done. Maybe I should start doing that. And then it's like, oh man, I've got 45 minutes to do this 5-page paper. Maybe I should start. And then I'm like, oh man, I actually might not get this done. And that's when I have my motivation.
Yep.
That's when it gets started.
Yep.
And I usually am able to finish it. I guess in high school, I tried to teach myself how to be efficient in the way I did my work, so that I was able to get things done very quickly.
Yes.
But I did not strive to learn the skill of getting things done on, like, ahead of time.
Yeah.
So now I'm stuck in this conundrum where I can't do final projects until, like, the week that they're due.
Yep.
I think about them, but I just don't actually get started on them. So
it's so hard to just sit down and do it. Because in my mind, there's so many things that come before that, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm never at a place of, I'm caught up for the next month. I have all this free time to work on something.
I'm caught up for the next month.
Like,
I don't think that will ever cross my mind ever.
I'm behind a month.
It's just
like, that's just not how I work. I just thought there's a TED Talk about all this, ironically.
Another TED Talk.
It is about procrastinators and why people procrastinate. And the dude goes, I forget who gave the TED Talk, but he starts out with a story about how he had this like 90-page like master's something or giant paper for end of college or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, like write a couple pages a week, you know, because then it'll be okay and stuff. And like for the first couple months, he's like, oh yeah, I still got plenty of time. And the classic, you know, you have 45 minutes to write 5 pages. Well, he waited so long, he had 48 hours to write 90 pages. He did it. He stayed up, he did it, and he handed it in, and they said this is the best one they've ever received. They didn't actually say that. He lied to the audience, and they all chuckled. And,
okay. Yeah. So I was going to say, like, he's justifying my procrastination methods.
No, and that's exactly why I said that. But he talked about the minds of procrastinators and how, like, the urge to do something isn't kicked in until this big scary monster says you might not actually get it done, and that's when
that's exactly what happens. So wait, so he handed in the paper? That was a true story? They just didn't say that it was the best? Okay.
Yeah, he did.
So it was an okay paper.
It was pretty bad.
It was pretty awful. Oh man, I remember the first time that I procrastinated on a paper.
Yeah.
It was like a 7-pager, and it was due, I can't remember what day. It was on, I think I had to do like an analysis of the book of Hosea or something, or Amos, for like Doctrine 1 or something. Yeah. But it was like a 7-page paper, and I had to have this many sources because everyone's like puts a number on how many sources you're supposed to have, because that'll determine how good your paper is. Anyway, so I realized it was the night before, and I had to do this and hand it in class the next day. And so I sat down and I was like, I'm just going to do this. And then 3 hours later, I was done.
Wow.
And that was when I kind of was able to test my writing ability, or my writing speed.
Yeah.
And realized that I was able to actually write things quickly. But I think my strategy was to think about what I was going to write ahead of time, so that by the time I actually sat down and started typing, I was able to just write the whole thing almost straight through.
Yeah.
I think if I segment my work, it just gets disjointed, and it's really not that. It's not as good as when I just sit down and type the whole thing, even if it's like an 8-hour drawn out process.
I have such a hard time segmenting, like you said.
I want my paper or whatever it is to flow. I want it to have a readability to it.
And the best way to do that is just one thought process sitting down. Because then you don't have to go back and do things.
And I think some teachers would argue against that, because they'd be like, it's going to flow if you make like an outline for it, and then you can write whatever pieces as long as the outline matches. But I just think when it comes to my vocabulary selection, that it's just easier for me to remember which words I've used before and which ways I've said things. That gives it a good flow. But this also goes to beyond writing papers too, just any kind of homework.
I have this thing I wrote down in my journal from, let's see, the 4th month is April.
Let's do this together.
January, February, March, April.
So that what, 30 days or 31?
Oh, it's in the divot, so it's 30.
30.
There we go. Okay, so
grade school is essential for podcasts. Anyway, go on.
April 19th of this year, I'm trying to figure out if I actually procrastinate, or if I just have so much to do all the time that I don't have a chance to do anything until right before a due date or a deadline. I still don't know which is true. I would wager I procrastinate for sure.
I'm just impressed that you like remembered that you wrote that exact thing and was able to like find it.
That's why I keep this journal around all the time. But it's honestly a thing, because like we're both busy people. Like you work a ton, you go to school, and you have a ton of interests, and like I go to school and I work and I have a ton of interests.
So we're like the same person.
Yeah, but we're completely opposite. So I still don't know, because it's not like I'm just sitting around being lazy, but there's also a place for, if I never take a break ever, I'm gonna die. Like, class, say you get up at 6:30, class at 7:30, and then if the entire day I'm just doing things besides like 30 minutes for lunch and dinner, it's just not healthy.
Yeah.
And so I just still don't, I have a hard time finding a balance between being personal, not procrastinating, and getting stuff done.
So here's kind of like a devil's advocate type argument. So if you're suggesting that there should be more time in the day where you're not supposed to do something, do you just like sleep during that time? Maybe.
Possibly. Sometimes.
Perhaps, but like I'm trying to think of a time where I'm not doing anything, because there have been days where I have had zero obligations. And especially like during the summertime when I don't have any papers to write or any assignments that are due or any lab reports to write up, but I have all this time, and you know, maybe some of it's working, but like the whole morning, what do I do during the morning? And I find I'm always doing something. So, and it's usually related to one of the passions that I have, say it's like racing. And so I'll just be doing, like, researching what's going on in the racing world, or it could be, I don't know, cleaning my room. Something like I'm always still doing something, but it doesn't seem like it's something I have to do. I mean, I guess I do have to clean my room. But that's for you, Mom. Shout out.
Yeah, I'm the same way, because like I'll go on Vimeo or YouTube and start researching, like, how can I make what I'm about to make better.
Or like music production, like there's always something new to learn there, so you can like listen to other songs and see if there's any techniques that you can deduce from that song. Try to mimic it, or at least learn how to attempt it.
I think that is the biggest thing that gets in the way of me doing things. That was vague. Researching how I can better edit or how I can better perform before performing, before saying I'm going to take everything I've learned thus far and put it into this project. I have a hard time doing that. Because I know I'm not the best, so I want to learn more.
You're always trying to make it a better product at the end.
But in doing that, I give myself less time to make a product, and then I end up doing it too quickly, usually. Whereas segmenting it would be a better option in there, because then I could apply things and such. But I hate sitting down at separate times and editing or something.
You like to be able to just do everything at one time.
It's just really hard for me.
I wonder if you were to budget your time. This is like one of the strategies that they taught me that I completely ignored, but it was to block out your day. And I guess I do kind of do it, I just don't write it down.
Mentally.
So I mentally say, this is what I want to get done today, this is what I'm going to get done today, and this is what I want to get done today, and I'm going to work. And I have school as well. So usually I do the things that I have to do, because, you know, skipping class, like, I mean, I'm paying so much for it, I might as well at least go. And then work isn't really an option, like, I'm obligated there. And then it comes to the homework, and if I'm already exhausted from those other two things,
it's so hard.
It's like, I need to do this, and I told myself I was going to do it, and I gave myself time to do it, but I just don't want to. I just really don't. And I usually will start about it or think about starting it. And the nice thing about my program is that a lot of what I do involves just thinking about how I want to approach a situation or a problem. So I can justify just sitting there and thinking about the problem and maybe doing a little research on it. Like for class, we're having a debate, and I have to define things like violence and rights and self-defense, like what are the limits of those things, and those are very vague in their definitions, and they have a lot of different interpretations. So I have to be able to justify and give evidence for whatever definitions I'm coming up with. And I have to think in advance of how someone might like attack that definition and say, hey, no, this is wrong, or I have something better, and then I have to be able to counter that as well. So there's a lot of thought that goes into it.
Yeah.
And so like the little research that you do and you find evidence for whatever you're doing, but a lot of it can be just sitting there thinking critically about what I'm going to talk about on Thursday. So that's kind of nice, and I can kind of do that in the car when I'm driving too, but it does get kind of tiring after a while because everything you're doing is something that you have to do, and it's all it drags on. So maybe it is that there's just too much on the plate right now.
Yeah. I would wager motivation and time management go hand in hand.
Oh, I would agree.
Just if I have no motivation, I'm not going to get anything done.
Yeah, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a person who is very good at managing their time, but not motivated at all.
Yeah. But
and I don't know if that's vice versa, because I feel like a lot of times I'm very motivated to do the work, but not now. I'm motivated in the future. Future me is motivated, and present me is super tired.
See, I've got a friend who, for the first 3 years of college, like, we just always assumed he didn't have any homework, because he was so good at just getting it done right away and efficiently. It was incredible. And it was until like past couple of months that I just learned he was really good at getting stuff done. He was good at sitting down, getting it out of the way, taking a half-hour break, and then doing more or something. And that just blows my mind because like if it's so hard for me to just focus for an hour and a half, like my mind is going everywhere. So it's just so commendable to be able to get stuff out of the way, be done, to the extent that we didn't think he ever had homework. It's just incredible to me. I cannot do that. It's not the way I work.
And I wonder, because now I'm working 2 jobs, and I'm like full class load, and also helping out with like cross country. It's just there's so much to do that I think I'm still efficient in the way I do it. It's just, when do I actually have the time? And there are some times where it's like, I have the time now, but I could also be sleeping or resting. And I think it is essential, like he said, you would take like a half-hour break. And those are that's a worthwhile usage of time, I think, is to give yourself that break, especially if you know that's what you need to get through to the next thing. So that maybe that's what I'm kind of doing subconsciously, is like, I'm not ready to put 100% of myself into this homework right now, or to this editing, or to this song. I need to give myself some space from that, and like kind of separate myself from it for just a certain amount of time.
It's a fine line, and it's the people who know how to walk that line. I envy them greatly.
I'm actually curious to see how this will play out once I actually get into a career, because then it'll be very clear what I have to do. That'll be in front of me all the time. I'll know, if I'm teaching, that'll mean I have to prepare for class, I have to show up at class, teach, and then if there's any assessments that are required for me to grade outside of class time, I would have to do that as well. And that's for every class period, all of those things. And then a lot of that probably goes into the summertime too, is like preparing, especially the first years as a teacher. I'm sure probably a lot goes on in the summer where you're blocking out what you think the semester is going to be like, and then building in room for flexibility and whatnot. But I'm curious to see if that's less than going to grad school and working 2 jobs and helping out with cross country, or if that's actually more and I actually just need to learn how to budget my time for real.
I've thought about that a lot. That's why I'm so passionate about getting a job that I'm so passionate about.
Because then it doesn't seem like work. It's just you want to do it.
You have that intrinsic motivation just driving. So like you get stuff done. I would get stuff done. I want that so badly. Because like if I'm not passionate about something, that's where I really don't do it. So that's where it comes, like gen eds in school or something that are just menial tasks.
Yeah.
Those are hard for me to do because I'm like, what is this doing for me?
You're not interested in...
Yeah. And that's when I lose time management and end up on YouTube.
Do you ever find that even though you're very passionate about something and you have an opportunity to do that, that you're bogged down by other things as well, that you just don't have the motivation to do the things that you love to do?
Yes.
Because I've had that with writing music.
Yeah.
It's been, I actually blocked out a day where I was going to try to make an entire track, which, you know, at that time in my life was something that was, so it was a big task.
Yeah.
It was going to take a while, and it took me a while. I'm getting better at making tracks quicker, but at that time, that was something that was a day-long project, was to make this whole thing.
Yeah.
And then I think I worked like 2 doubles in a row at the restaurant, and then I woke up that morning and I was just bleh. I didn't want to. I just didn't have the motivation to do this.
Yeah.
So maybe I was just overworked and wanted rest, but that's what's sad to me sometimes, is that those other things kind of get in the way of the things that you love to do. And I think, you know, if I ever get in front of a classroom, I hope that's something that I can be passionate about, where I'm like, I want to be ready for this class. Like, this is going to be great. You know, is it always going to be like that? Probably not. But I hope at least, you know, for most of the time, I can bring that, or at least exemplify that in some way, or always come at it with like I want to learn something from this, I'm gaining from this, and enjoy doing it as well. But it'll be interesting.
Yeah. I think careers will be much different than school.
Yeah,
for sure.
Unless you're still in school.
Unless you're still in school.
Unless you're
a teacher.
Unless you're a teacher, in which it'll be the exact same thing as you've done for 20 years. No, I'm just kidding. That's still something I struggle with too. Is do I actually want to teach? Is that something that I'm going to be passionate about for the rest of my life? Because there have been some things that keep coming up over and over and over again, like racing, car racing. I don't know why, and I can't remember when it started to become a passion of mine, but every time I try to take a break from it, it always comes right back into my life.
Yeah.
And there I am, waking up at 2 a.m. to watch Formula 1 races from halfway across the world. And people are like, what's F1 again?
Yep. You just reminded me of another journal entry. It was only a page away. This one, the 4th month, April 5th of 2016 again.
Okay.
So this one says, I don't want to have the same career for 45 years. There's so much I would miss if I worked in the same profession for a lifetime. I want to have as many experiences and adventures as possible. That's going to mean dropping one thing and taking up another, which is hard for me. This way I could actually teach, band direct, maybe choir direct, and be a photographer, filmmaker. That's where I struggle. I have all these passions, and I don't think there is one job that includes them all to the degree that I would like, because that means I would have to be 4 different people.
I think you messaged me that tonight when we were getting ready for this podcast, as you were like, are you going to be off of work before 9 o'clock? Because otherwise I need to know if I need to make a clone. And I thought that was hilarious. I almost said, yeah, I'm going to be here till 10. You better clone yourself. I think it'd be funny to have you as a guest on your own show.
That would be really funny.
Also be really freaky, and then I'd want to wake up.
There shouldn't be 2 Jonathans in the world. That'd be scary.
But I really do understand what you mean about that, though. It's like, I want to be, like, I think if there's like 10 of me, I would find something different that I could be passionate about and dedicate a career to. Like, even something like childhood dreams, so to speak, like making buildings or being an architect or like being a trained engineer.
Yeah, and for me it was like being an astronaut or engineer.
Yeah. You know, my dad told me the sky's the limit, John. And my dreams of being an astronaut were crushed. Right then and there.
Gone.
It was gone. I knew from that moment on that I did not have the potential to be an astronaut. But.
So, all these careers, all these things we want to do, how does it relate to time management? I view it as I have so many passions. I've been blessed so much that I need to switch in life in order to get to it all. Mm-hmm. Because there isn't enough hours in the day for me to manage.
Yeah.
To do it all.
Yeah.
Which is a blessing in disguise.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to go throughout the day and say, I can't do this passion of mine today. I can't go take star pictures today, even though it's a gorgeous night.
Mm-hmm.
I have to do this homework.
Yeah.
And then it's making those priorities and sticking to them.
Yeah.
It's hard for me.
I do think once you narrow down something that you're passionate about and say, like, this is what I'm going to commit, my life to.
Yeah.
It's not to say that you won't ever touch those other things again.
Yeah.
But when you say, this is the one that I'm going to focus on, you will be better at that one thing than if you, like, did everything at the same time as well.
Yep.
Because you can only, I mean, if you think of them as, like, little cylinders, that you can fill up with, like, sand or something.
Yeah.
You can only fill up, like, one at a time.
Yeah.
Like, there's only one of you.
Yep.
And if you focus on one, you can grow in that one so much more.
Yeah.
But you do like to have those other ones on the side that you can always,
Mm-hmm.
Go back to and enjoy again as well.
Exactly. A little bit of gear switch. I think we've mainly talked about short-term time management.
Long-term.
Long-term. I would wager, I would argue that I'm a better long-term planner than I am short-term.
What makes you say that?
Okay, so strictly like camera speaking, I'm always planning like, what's the next step in photography for me? What's the next step in video for me? What's the next big project? And then making plans to get that project done. If it's a personal project, I usually accomplish it. Mm-hmm. Like, I've got a personal project that I'm going to release in May that I'm already starting and realizing what I have to do and writing and stuff for. So that's...
Is that like a subtle plug for
a little
for your
bit?
thing in May?
A little bit. We'll see. Or just I like making long-term plans. I bought a nice notebook so I could start writing all these big ideas and plans in, so I could start getting stuff done and achieve these bigger goals.
I think even in this podcast, we're better long-term planners. Like, we even spent a good hour today before this talking about season 2, which is like half a season away.
Yeah.
And just the different improvements that we're going to make, and even, making I think we can announce like an intro video for...
Yeah, there'll be an intro video for season 2.
There will be an intro video for season 2, and it's going to kind of combine the different talents that we have, kind of showcase those just as a fun little project, while also launching into a new season with a slightly different look, slightly different feel, a little better quality, kind of moving up from the things that we've learned from this one. So long-term planning is maybe a little easier, because it's easier to talk about something that you're going to do in the future than, at least for me, than to do something right now.
Oh, yes. Yes.
It's easy to say, we're going to get better microphones.
Mm-hmm.
Then let's do my homework. They're both things that I need to do, and it's easier said than done, I think. Is maybe why long-term planning, at least for me, is a little easier, maybe for you as well.
I would agree. Just with the exact same example, like, let's get microphones, then all of a sudden we're like, okay, let's research microphones, let's do all this, and I love researching things.
Oh, yes.
So I'm just going to go wholeheartedly into that, whereas homework is this thing that I have to do.
Yeah.
So, like, have to, want to. Two huge things, very different in the time management world, because the things I want to do, all of a sudden there will be time for it. Mm-hmm. And that time should be in the have to do spot, if you think of it as like a counterbalance.
Yeah.
and all of a sudden the 1-2s just crushes and hits the ground.
Yeah. And what you said earlier about gen eds or classes or homework where you feel like it's I have to do this and it drags you down. That's an interesting thing to keep in mind as a teacher as well when you're assigning homework.
Yeah.
Is, if I ever teach, it'll probably be in a math situation. Math is almost universally, at least in America, the favorite subject of all the students. I'm just kidding. It's not. It's really not. It's not at all. Most people hate math. And that's kind of what I wanted to be a math teacher, is because I thought it was interesting and it applied to a variety of different situations. So my goal as a teacher is to make it applicable, immediately applicable to whatever students are passionate about, where they can go home and I have to do my math homework right now. What does that entail? And it involves something that they're actually interested in. And that's not going to be an easy task. So keeping that in mind, at least, hopefully will bring about some kind of change where, like, oh, I can do this fun thing that I like to do and also get my homework done at the same time and also learn how to do the Pythagorean theorem. I don't know. Like, I think it's possible to incorporate all those things together. It's just how you do it. That's the trick.
With that same education standpoint, I think it is vitally important to teach time management skills, but then give students time to practice them.
Yeah.
And say, you have 20 minutes to do this. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Are you going to go and back and you're going to do random stuff you don't have to? Or are you going to get your homework done?
Interesting.
Like, even in 3rd grade, you could start teaching that. Because there's so many activities around the classroom that kids can do now.
Yeah.
All these stations, or they can get their homework done so they have more time to play at home.
Yeah. And I wonder, the friend that you spoke of, I'm pretty sure he didn't come to college and then all of a sudden just learn how to do all of this. Probably something that was instilled at a younger age and that he was able to work on. Maybe even in high school, I think it's where they tried to teach me time management.
Like with study halls and such.
Yeah. And I did get my stuff done.
Yeah.
And it usually wasn't during study hall.
Here's my problem. I never had a study hall. So maybe I just never taught myself time management skills.
In high school, I had 2 hours of study hall every night.
Oh,
from
wow.
7:30 to 9:30.
Wow.
And oftentimes, I did not study. Oftentimes, I was either finished with whatever studying I had or wasn't motivated enough. And I was able to do well in school without doing that studying. So maybe if I struggled more, I'd be more motivated to do more studying or manage my time better. But even now, I'm not finding that the classes are incredibly difficult or challenging to the point where I am struggling with the assignment. Like, I'm not pushed into that frustration zone often in the comfort zone for all of my homework. So maybe that's the trick, is I need to be pushed to do things more. Pushed to do things that are more difficult.
Yeah. So you just need to be pushed, and that's what's going to give you more motivation.
Because often those assignments are the ones that you're motivated to do.
Yeah. Because you got to get to it.
Yeah. Even those like projects that are passions of yours are easier to get to when it's a monumental task. Like we made a rap battle. I think we've talked about it once or twice.
Yeah, maybe.
But I put 150 hours of editing into that over the course of
through all your sound design and visual editing,
and the stuff that goes into the beforehand.
Yeah, like that was huge.
Like making the song, recording the vocals, editing it all together, mastering it, sending it through to other places, recording all of the video, which involves a lot of planning beforehand.
Yeah.
Working the green screen, learning how to use a green screen.
Ironing a green screen
at like midnight.
Yeah.
But see, that was all together was one huge task. And it was really fun to put together.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoyed it. It was exhausting, but it was worthwhile for sure.
Totally.
Whereas if you said, my project is going to be use this green screen and record whatever you want on top of it. I probably wouldn't have been as excited.
No.
So maybe putting all those things together. I don't know. I feel like we might also be different than a lot of other people too. Whereas we both feel like we struggle with time management. I wonder what it'd be like to interview your friend who's very much on top of it.
Yeah. This whole podcast is like a plea for help.
But I'm not. See, that's the other interesting thing is I'm not really struggling. I'm not finding that I'm not finishing assignments. I mean, every once in a while I'll have something late because I either wrote down the date wrong or it got moved and I wasn't paying attention, or every once in a while. But for the most part, I get things done and I do them fairly well.
Yeah.
At least that's what my grades are indicating, and how I feel about the class. Like the feedback that I'm getting is not that this was really subpar work again. It was just like, oh, that was good, that's good. So I don't know.
See, I want to be better at time management. I hate that I'm not good at it. And I think it's just something that is so ingrained in me that it's hard to change. Mm-hmm. It's like changing a personality almost, because it goes along with that a little bit.
Yeah.
And I have no idea how to do it besides just doing it.
I do recall there have been 2 times in my life where I have actually made a list of things I need to do. And if you know me, I'd never make lists, ever. It's never like, oh, what am I going to do today? Like, I'll mentally maybe think about what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But it's never actually physically sit down and make a list of all the things. Mm-hmm. At least for organizational purposes, I have to do this. Maybe I'll make a list if it's like in the video, like it's like a checklist for like making lists. That's different. But when it comes to like things I have to do, homework, this form, more homework, go to work, do this, get this, go to the bank, get this from the store. Like I'd never make lists of things to do. Never have had to, and I have done it twice. 2 times in my life where I was maybe, I guess you could say the word stressed. I don't like to use that word.
It's a dangerous word.
It is. It's I mean, that's a whole nother podcast, I think, is stress and stress management. Also, TED talks about that.
Yes.
Maybe we just found our topic for next.
I think we just did.
So we'll talk about stress next time. But this is related to time management, is that I was so much under the deadline that I felt the need to write everything that I needed to do down. And then, I don't know if it's just the psychological, I can see this all being
move on,
crossed off, or I can see the finish line.
Yeah.
That helped me get through that, but only 2 times in my life, and one of them was right before I started grad school. There was just so much that I needed to do with classes and registration and figuring out things at work and finances.
Yeah.
And then the other time I think was actually during the end of my last year in college.
I was gonna say, I could remember one time where I saw you making a list. Like you showed me, because it was a monumental occasion.
I can't remember. Do you remember what it was? I can't remember.
No, I remember it was on a tiny little piece of notebook paper. That's all I've got.
That's how.
I'm a visual memory person.
Yeah, and that's how committed I was to making this list. It wasn't like this brand new, fresh piece of paper. I think it was like a piece of scrap paper that I put in my pocket and then started writing.
Yeah.
Maybe there's been 3 times, but it's a very, very few. But I did find that writing everything that I had to do down, and then seeing it all be checked off was very helpful. And then even being able to put things on there that I didn't think I would be able to get to right away, like those long-term things.
Yes.
Like maybe I still had to do it, but it wasn't immediate. All of that was helpful, and I did eventually get to everything on the list.
Which is great. It's a great feeling.
I do remember now, it was coming into the first year of grad school, was also moving into this apartment here.
Yeah.
And one of the things on the list was to make the desk that I have in my studio. And so even that, getting all the different parts for it, designing it, everything like that, all had to get done. That was just like one tiny piece of like getting everything ready to move into this place.
Yeah.
And I guess, do I have to have a desk like that? No.
But it's super cool.
I did want it. And it kind of
cool
feels like
desk.
I'm at a spaceship now. So
Yeah.
definitely worth it. I actually might try starting that again. It's just for, even if it's just for school things, is to say, like, here are all the different projects that I have to finish, or all the different pieces of homework, because at least at the level of school I'm at, I know all of the assignments that I'm going to have already. It's
blocked out.
It's all blocked out. I just have to do it.
Yep.
So I might try writing that down and then seeing how that works, if that helps motivate me to do things.
See, here's the thing. I don't know why this book hasn't come up. This book, meaning my journal, and so in the back are all these thoughts I have, and I've shared 2 of those. In the front is all these lists of things I have to do. And I started this last year at the beginning of the school year, and it helped me get stuff done, like big time. The thing is, sometimes just seeing everything I have to do is incredibly intimidating for me. So I kind of got away from it this school year, and it's definitely shown. It's really shown in me getting stuff done. So lists help me for sure.
Maybe segmenting them and giving yourself different deadlines for all the things.
Yeah.
Is helpful. I know that's what I did when I had all of the things for school coming into that first year, is I knew when I had to have each thing done, and that helped me prioritize which one I would do right away.
Yeah.
And then I could kind of, forget about this other stuff.
Yeah, prioritizing and lists for me are huge challenges. I know that. Like, it's just who I am. I like to think I'm self-aware. I know what my issues are. It's just fixing them.
I feel like I can prioritize well. I mean, even as a server, you've got 5 different tables, and you're at a different stage in the dining process for each one. You've got a checklist of things you need to do. You've got to drop off the check for this table, take the order for this table, run food to this table, get drinks for this table, get refills for this table, and then try to create an environment where it's enjoyable while they're waiting for their food for this table. And I can generally figure out which of those is most important, and sometimes you have to choose which people you're going to get more angry, which is the unfortunate thing. But oftentimes, like in that situation, I'm able to choose a route or choose my priorities in a way that is efficient and gets things done in a timely manner. It's just when it comes to real life, I know which things I have to do, but not having to do them. Like, I don't have to do it right now. Remember, you're efficient. You can do that tomorrow. And if there's ever that time where I can always push it off and do it this time instead, then it's like, I'm free from responsibility. Yeah, but this year is becoming a lot harder to do that because I don't even have time to do it in the future. So I'm having to do it all kind of right away. But it's like, by the time I get to think about the assignment, I have to be doing it, and it has to be done. So here's an idea.
I just need help.
How about we both start making lists again? And it could be for the podcast, for photography, audio, for school. Probably mostly for school. But we can try making these lists and using them, and then towards the end of the season, we're planning on having an episode that kind of sums up the first season. And we can talk about this again and say, how has this helped?
Yes.
I think that we might be maybe better at time management.
Yes.
As that goes on for the next few weeks, I think, before we'll finish this season. So.
15 episodes this season.
And we're on like 8 or 9 right now.
This is 9, episode 9.
Episode 9. So we've got...
So that's something we can hold ourselves to.
2 weeks of making lists, and I'm going to try to experiment. I'm going to try to experiment, that is, with different ways that I can organize the list so that I can prioritize things easier. and we'll see how it works.
I'm going to try to set achievable items on my list instead of just titling the project and saying this, I think, subpoints of that project.
Yeah, I've done that too. Like, I remember I had a portfolio. You'll probably have to do a portfolio before you graduate. And there's 10 different parts of this portfolio, but each has their different subparts.
Yeah.
And so, like, having all those listed down too, it's much easier to cross something off when you have smaller things or smaller tasks segmented out.
Yeah, definitely.
I do recall a book that I heard about. I haven't read yet, but it's something that I thought was very interesting. It's called the 80-20 principle.
Okay.
And it was actually, I think I had a class project on time management, which is really ironic.
It really is.
But we were interviewing different professors about time management, and one of them said there's this book called the 80-20 principle, and he said, you know, I was super busy at the time. I had a lot of stuff going on as I was reading this book, and what I did is I just typed out on a computer any possible thing that I could think of to do. All of these things that I could possibly do, like everything that could be on my plate at this time. It was like about 10 different pages of all these things. And you roughly prioritize them. Like, you know, like paying the bills, that's probably up there.
Yeah.
You know, preparing for class, that's up there. You know, maybe reading this other book that someone recommended to him or something, probably not on that list. So he roughly prioritized that, and he took the last 8 pages of this list and he just deleted it. Just deleted.
What?
Just gone.
What?
And he said it was the most relieving thing in his life. It was just, all of that was off the plate. Don't have to do it. And I'm just going to keep this 20.
Oh my goodness.
So I don't know, there's probably, if I feel like right now in my life, if I were to prioritize and make 10 pages of things to do, I'd have to do 8 pages of it.
Yeah.
It's like just essential that I get those 8 pages done. So I don't know if I have the freedom to do that, but he said the best work usually comes from that 20%.
That's really interesting.
So I might
What do you put in that 20%?
Yeah, what do you put in that 20%?
Oh.
20% of your time is used at maximum efficiency, something like that. And there's tons of different areas in where this 80-20 principle applies.
Yeah. What's 20% of a day? Let's see, 24 hours.
You're making me do math.
24 hours.
Podcast again.
So 10% of 24 hours is oh wow, math is hard. 10% of 24 hours is 2.4 hours.
So 20 of
0.4 of an hour.
So that's about 5 hours a day.
Yeah, about 5 hours.
Just under 5. So 4.8. Just under 5. That sounds like how much sleep I get a night. Just kidding.
So 4.8 hours.
It's like 6.5 hours.
So like, for someone still in school, is that 4.8 hours still in the school hours?
I'm not sure.
Is that post school? Is it a mix?
I think I'm gonna have to look up this principle more. It might even be a general principle that applies to things more than just time management. But
I just bought a book. Shoot, I have to read this.
Yeah, that's another thing I want to get better at is especially when I get more time. Maybe next semester, is I can block out, I want to read for this amount per day.
Yeah, it really helps because I've done that.
But yeah, I think making these lists is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And then even adding to that theme of like using this podcast as a way for personal growth. It'll be interesting to see how it turns out 2 weeks from now as we're wrapping it up for this season. Maybe 3 weeks from now. We'll see how our time management goes.
So meta.
Yeah.
So what did you take away from this podcast?
You know, I remember, I can't remember, maybe end of summer, beginning of summer, we were messaging each other. I think you were already back in Wisconsin and I was still here. And maybe you were talking about all the different editing things that you were in the middle of.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think it was even a Snapchat, it said, here's to always having something on your plate, but always seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
So regardless of how much it sucks having to manage your time amongst all these different passions and necessities of life, I think trying to keep the end in sight is a good goal, but it's also a blessing to have all these things on my plate as well.
Yeah.
To get to choose from. I think some people might not have that opportunity, so I just don't want to take that for granted either. And maybe that's a toast to live by as well. So
a toast of the artist.
Yes.
Of the artist. I think
What
we
about
should
you?
I like that a lot because I've kept that in mind.
Yeah.
Ever since you said that.
I don't even know where that came from either. Random inspiration for the day.
It's a really good line. So let's just leave it with that.
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree.
Tomorrow morning, I believe we're going to record another podcast. And that one will be about
Stress.
and stress management. Going on our management theme for these 2 episodes.
Guess so. So this has been John
And John,
and the 226.
thanks for watching.
Peace.